Have something that says.
Evening, everyone. Welcome to the East Bay Charter Township Planning Commission meeting dated Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022. I'd like to call the meeting to order and begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our friends within the department. Can we do a roll call vote, please, Leslie?
Ferguson.
Here.
Edley.
Here.
Walter.
Present.
Nemeth.
Here.
Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Leonard.
Yes. Thank you for that. And next we have on the agenda the review for conflict of interest. Is there any conflict of interest of any of the matters before us this evening? Anybody on the planning commission? Seeing none, we'll move on for approval of the agenda.
I would so move to approve the agenda of May 3rd, 2022, but if we go beyond 9:15, I would say let's have a break.
I like it. I like it. Is there a second? Thank you. Moved by Nemitz, supported by Walters. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next up is the approval of the minutes of April 15th, the regular meeting and site visit.
April 5th?
Oh, did I say 15th? Sorry, 5th.
I have something.
Okay.
Of course. Page 2, like when, let's see, I'm trying to think, it's like after number 12, I don't know what the motion, there's no motion. So what was the motion, and then what was,
I don't remember either. But
okay, yeah, just look at the tape, that'll tell us the motion.
that's weird.
I know.
Good catch.
Yeah.
I think I know what it is now.
It's up here.
Yeah,
No,
What is
it's
it?
Because 4 of us look at these. before
Okay,
I-
so,
it's the findings of fact, and then 7 through 12.
okay, so then a motion was made,
It's right there. Motion was made by Leonard.
Oh,
okay.
yeah, right above, can you see it? Look above 7.
7.
And then right here.
Oh, okay, it was hidden, all right. Sorry about that.
Any motion out there for approval or any other changes?
I'll also move, since you clarified that, for approval of, oh my gosh, what was the date? April 5th.
Support.
Meetings.
Thank you. Motion by Nemitz, supported by Walters. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 6, public comment. Again, this is, oh, you want to do the site visit minutes? Excuse me. Yeah, we can.
Did we do it all as one?
We didn't. We can do it separately if you'd like. Because were there any adjustments for the site visit minutes of the same day?
We've been trying to put them all together so that you
Right.
can adopt them as one.
Okay.
Okay, unless you had any changes. Okay. Then we're going to retroactively say that that covered both, if you guys are good with that. Keep it simple.
Yes.
Okay, and item number 6, public comment. Again, this is public comment on anything that is other than agenda items at this time. Can we get your address and name for the record, please?
Beth Friend, I'm right down the hall on the right. No. Hey, I wanted to come tonight to actually thank John Syke for his service on the Planning Commission. He was called away to family responsibility tonight and couldn't be here. And I have not planned what I'm going to say, so this could go very badly. Hopefully it'll go very well. But my intention was, again, to thank John. John came to apply for the Planning Commission. And when he did, of course, he knows quite a bit about planning, obviously. That's his day job. And it was interesting that he had wanted to volunteer his time in that way for his community because he lives in East Bay Township. And we were very excited to have him join the board. He was very thoughtful in his deliberations. I can remember in particular him talking about the master plan survey results and just articulating very clearly what he felt kind of the generalized outcome was. He did a really nice job in reviewing things, and I really appreciate that. I'm also glad we were able to give him the opportunity because he brought to my attention that he was so happy to sit on the opposite side of the table for once, that it gave him a different perspective as well. And then he appreciated that. So I think that him being on the Planning Commission served both the township very well and himself. And I'm sorry that right now that he, and understandably so, and I support him in that decision, that he has, other commitments that are vying for his time right now. And I'm glad he could spend the time that he did with us. But I still ended up coming tonight because I thought, gosh, I don't want to thank people just when they're leaving, right? So I know all of you and have come to know you either as you were on this board or becoming involved with this board, different states of being involved with the township. And I know from a personal standpoint what it takes to be committed to serving your community. And it is pulling out a packet when your family's involved with something else and you're reading something or tied to your computer or making decisions that feel like no matter what decision you make could make nobody happy on either side anyway, ever. And that happens, and that's okay. We get it. As fellow volunteers, we all understand it. We all do that. But it takes a special person to do that, and I just want to thank you guys for that and appreciate your time and your service to the community.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a good meeting.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? All right. On to correspondence. Is there any additional correspondence that we didn't have already? Okay. Makes that easy. And now under item number 8, reports from the Township Board. Mindy.
So the last April board meeting was the quarterly reports meeting, so we talked to, all the departments, engineering, accounting, ambulance, assessing. But one of the things that Claire brought to us was the option of a short-term rental moratorium. So the board has taken that, the action of putting that on the agenda for public comment for this month's meeting. So we might see short-term rentals, or I think either way, we're going to see short-term rentals back in our arena soon. Another thing that was on the agenda was the liquor license for the Alexandria Inn. As you may recall, there was a height issue, and we approved that liquor license contingent on that height issue being resolved, so that was approved. But I did want to let you know that there were some public comments to the board about us here at the Planning Commission, and I just want, although there's no actions that we need to do, I just wanted you to be aware that some people have come to the Township Board with some concerns about what has happened at the Planning Commission of late. And I think we all know that, we all know why, but I just wanted to let you know that that was voiced at the Township Board meeting.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any questions for Mindy? Okay. Paul with ZBA?
Yes, sir. For April, we did not have a meeting, so there was nothing to report on that. However, I want to clarify, in March meeting, we did approve the township's decision relative to the boating allowances up in the Lakemore Resort area.
Gotcha.
We reaffirmed what the township has stated.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for that. Any questions for Paul? Okay. Planning and Zoning Department.
Not too many updates. Mindy's comments did remind me I did want to report back to you on the building height for the Alexandra Inn. We circled back with the attorney. The updated elevation plans show the Widow's Walk at 35 feet, so that's been lowered, and so that's been approved, and so liquor license and other site plan review will move forward. So thanks, Paul, for bringing that to the Planning Commission's attention. There's some training opportunities that were sent out, and so just want to encourage you, I know everyone's busy, but if there's any training opportunities that you're interested, please feel free to contact me. I can help make sure that we get you signed up and reimbursed, and so we definitely want to support that. And so, if you can't make it this time, then next time, and we'll try to continue to send those training opportunities out to you. And I think that was it. We didn't get a chance to include the updated land use permits in your packet, but we've had 45 to date, and that's pretty comparable with this time last year. So.
Gotcha. All right. Any questions? Okay. Moving on right into business. Item number 9 for new business for the Florida Planning Commission. We've got Mitten Apartments, a site plan approval extension request. And maybe to kick it off, do you want to just kind of give some background, Claire, as to how we got here?
Sure. I know that a number of planning commissioners were not on the planning commission when this was approved, but it was approved in June 2nd of 2020. basically a site plan is good for 2 years after the approval. If the applicant is not going to be able to secure a land use permit within those 2 years, they have the opportunity to come to the Planning Commission for an extension up to 1 additional year. So they, Mitten Apartments applied the 60 days in advance, so we received an application in March for the extension, and so they have made quite a bit of progress. I would definitely anticipate that they'd have a land use permit by June of 2023, and so that's the extension that they're seeking, and I believe Petra is here from representing Mansfield, so you're welcome
Gotcha.
to add anything.
I'm Petra Kunis from Mansfield Land Use Consulting, 830 Cottage View Drive. Just an update. Since the application for the extension, we have received 2 of the permits that were still pending, and we anticipate receiving the 2 remaining permits in the next few days. So I'll be sending you an application for land use permit probably this month yet.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any questions of the Planning Commission to the applicant while they're here about the past or how we've gotten here? I presume a lot of COVID delays and/or cost increases and all of the above in the last couple of years have been the primary source of the thorn.
Absolutely.
If no other questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve request for extension of site plan review 4-20 Mitten Apartments with an expiration date of June 2nd, 2023.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Walters, second by Nemitz. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion's approved. Thank you, Petra. Okay, next up is item B, SPR 2-22 and SLU 2-22 Beachview Apartments. Update, discussion, possible action. And I know, Claire, let's kind of kick it off and kind of get us back to where we were a month ago.
Sure. So the applicant has, they submitted an updated site plan that's in your packet. They've provided, from my perspective, all the additional items that were needed for the site plan. So those were the dumpster details were added to the site, the landscaping has been updated, and all of the landscaping percentages, open space as well as woody vegetation have been met. Lighting plan meets the ordinance, so there was confirmation that the foot candles were adequate, as well as they gave us the specs for the lighting fixtures. The fence was added to screen the parking area. I was unclear, actually, what permit was outstanding from MDOT. It's not a driveway permit, but it's a permit to connect to the MDOT storm sewer for emergency overflow only. So that's the one kind of permit that they're waiting for from MDOT. So I think that that would be reasonable to approve the site plan with that condition of receiving that permit prior to the land use permit. The township engineer is comfortable with their snow storage, so what they're proposing is to store up to, store snow in the stormwater basin up to half full. We don't have anything in our ordinance that addresses that, but Wade Trim looked at Acme ordinance as well as Garfield Township, and they allow snow storage in the stormwater basin up to half full. And so they felt comfortable with the estimates that the applicant had provided in the snow storage plan. I would recommend that a condition stating that the property owner would haul any snow off-site if it was to exceed half full of the stormwater basin. And I think that's it. Other than that, I didn't have any issues with conditions of the site plan.
Okay, great, thank you. And I know the applicant's here. Would you like to talk a little bit about the project itself?
Good evening, Justin Mortier, 833 Vienna Way. Thank you for your time, and thank you for volunteering for this board. As Claire has illustrated, I believe that we've met all of the conditions, answered all the questions, and happy to answer anything else that you might have and hopefully gain approval so we can put a shovel in the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Mindy?
What has MDOT said about the connection, emergency connection to their stormwater?
They preliminarily don't see any issues with it. They just don't have the time and capacity to get to approving it at present.
Did
And I
they
think-
give you a
I think-
time?
I think Claire
Yeah,
had the most recent.
there's correspondence in the packet that they didn't have any issues, but they didn't give me a timeline for permit.
I believe that all of our site calculations meet the requirements anyway, so it's just for emergency overflow.
I just was wondering if they were going to hold you up for another 6 months, you know, or what was going on there.
Any other questions?
I have a question. So when we're talking half full of snow, not half full of water?
Correct.
Okay, all right, so just wanted to clarify that. And then will we be taking, I didn't see any escrow in there like we've done for landscaping with other sites. Will we be getting an estimate for that, or?
You know what? Yeah, that's a good question. The number of units that they have doesn't require.
Okay,
that,
so we don't have to do that.
Landscaping plan, and so that wasn't part of the performance guarantee, wasn't part of Sarah's.
But we do have a performance guarantee then, in case they dig and to put stuff back, or no?
For the landscaping, we don't.
Okay. Do we?
The planning commission can elect to do that. We
Right.
haven't generally done, we've generally done just the landscaping performance
Right.
guarantee. And we have in the past, on some properties, had a condition of approval that the site would be, I can't remember the exact language, but the soil erosion terminology basically kind of graded back to the same
Right.
vacant status.
Given, I don't know, I think that's something for us to discuss possibly, given our past experience, and I know what you guys went through with, and I'm not saying Justin or this property falls into that realm, but to protect the township, I'm wondering if we should take a performance in case there's digging and just to level it and grass it over. Because we've seen it happen in Petoskey, we've seen it happen on Front Street, in Traverse City. I think that, and I understand that it's a little bit expense, but I don't want to get caught with, like, Petoskey and Front Street. Just a thought for us to throw out there.
Any other?
And just to clarify, in the past, we haven't done a performance guarantee, but we have had so there hasn't been like a letter of credit required or a bond, but we have had a condition that states
Yes.
that the applicant shall.
We could have a condition. I mean, I'm okay with that, just so that we don't end up with a big hole and nothing to put it back.
Any other questions on this? Yeah, because I want to flush that out.
Yeah.
What would the condition state? That if they start construction and then don't finish, that they would then regrade the site to its prior
And grass it.
and grass it?
And
What do you think about that, Justin?
I think it just kind of depends on what you see the financial value, I guess, what you would be asking. I mean, if it's a condition, I'm okay with that. I think if you're going to be asking me to write a check in advance in case of that, I think that's not
I
a,
don't think so. I mean, Judy, maybe you could explain to me.
I think that
'cause
would be-
wasn't involved in the thing before.
Right.
What happened with the past experience where we had an issue where something wasn't finished and was left ungraded?
Yeah, there was a couple sites, and these were much larger sites and very much in view on the corridor. I think his site is smaller, and so it would be, it's less of kind of a noticeable site, but it was both the hotel site that's next to the Hampton Inn, as well as the Stellar Hospitality.
Oh, the big piles of
Yeah,
dirt.
yeah, large piles of dirt that
Okay.
were challenging to, when.
The pile of dirt. I mean, I would be
I do
okay
remember
with
those.
a condition if that would be, it is on the Parkway, we've had
I'm okay with the
residential
condition.
issues with that
course.
before. A condition, I don't think, I'm not saying that Justin needs to write a check, but I would just prefer a condition with that, if you'd be okay with that.
I'm great with that.
Okay.
And I think for the language for the condition, we spent some time and it was modeled after, I think Petra actually helped us with that, but it was modeled after the soil erosion. So we could pull that
Okay.
same condition that was used for Stellar Hospitality
Okay.
Yeah.
and for some of the other sites.
Yeah, the last thing we want is something dangerous on the site as well, so
Absolutely.
no worries.
Any other thoughts from the board? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve SPR 2-22, SLU-222, Beach House Apartments, subject to staff findings of fact, and the following suggested conditions. Do I need to read those, or is it okay just to list the ones that Claire mentioned?
I think if we're just going to do the one after the fact, condition,
Okay.
and was there anything additional to that?
No, the three conditions that are outlined in Claire's memo,
Yep.
plus the condition that the site be, if there is no action on the site, that it be regraded to its prior look according to the Stellar Hospitality language that Claire used in the last approval. Does that work, Judy?
Yeah, and did you want to talk about MDOT?
Yeah, we need the MDOT permit prior to land use permit.
Oh, I thought that was in this thing.
Should have been.
It says, number 3, all agency permits required to secure
It says
Yeah.
MDOT stormwater, soil, and erosion.
Okay. So we've got a
I'll
motion
support.
on the table. Thank you. And support?
What,
So motion by Ferguson, support by Edley. Let's just go for it then and say, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next up is SPR 7-22 Timber Ridge. This is a public hearing, and discussion, possible action. So, that being said, I'd say it is, 6:56-ish? I want to open the public hearing up for public comment. Any public comment? Going once, going twice. Okay, so let's close the public hearing at 6, I can't believe I'm saying this, 57. Keep this thing rolling. I like it. That being the case, I would like to get a little introduction from Claire and maybe even the applicants that are here in town, but Claire, you want to kick us off and just give us some feedback?
Sure, so Timber Ridge is seeking site plan approval for 39, might have been 38 additional spaces or sites, but all the way up to that 360 limit. And the campgrounds are allowed by special land use permit in the natural area, which is the zoning district of Timber Ridge. However, they received a special land use permit for the campground in 2015. And part of the approval was the Planning Commission allowed them to go up to the 360 sites through a site plan. So I think that there were 322 approved in 2015, and they stated they wouldn't have to amend their special land use permit if they came back with site plan to get them up to the 360. Anything beyond that, they'll need to come back for a special land use permit and go through that whole process, but this is just site plan review because they're looking to get up to that 360 limit that was set in the previous special land use permit. I have confirmed they're exempt from soil erosion permit. There is a stormwater permit that will be required, and there's a preliminary engineering review that's enclosed. There really were not any issues that were highlighted by our engineer beyond just discussion of whether or not they'd be required to hook up to municipal water. And that's a discussion that we're following up with legal counsel on and won't be part of the site plan review piece, so you won't need to worry about that. The Eagle Campground construction permit is pending. We had a construction permit included in your packet, and that was actually for the previous set of sites, so My understanding is they submitted the campground the permit application a year ago, and they're according to Eagle, they're very close to receiving that. And that would be another condition of approval. But Grand Traverse Metro Fire reviewed and approved, that's in your packet. So from a staff perspective, I didn't have any concerns with this site plan. It looks good from my perspective.
Great, thank you. And the applicant's here as well. Want to come up, kind of talk a little bit about the project?
Thank you. Jeff Cockfield with Grand Traverse Engineering. With me is Gordon Wagner, the owner, and Miranda Lambert, the general manager, and also a famous country music star. And to do that, yes. Yes, we really don't have a whole lot to add beyond Claire's staff report. The one item in the site plan review that, is of note is, I guess we're asking for a variance or some leniency on the requirements on the landscape plan because it's a heavily wooded campsite bordered on state land by pretty much all three sides. The campground, as you can see here, is primarily on the front 40 acres. This would be called the back 40 acres. This is the area that we're talking about, the 39 units that we're asking for approval for tonight. The one clarification in the staff report, and this is my fault, Claire, is you mentioned a 12-foot gravel road, and that's a typo on my part. It's a 20-foot gravel road, which is required by Grand Traverse Fire. So they caught that and said, hey, how wide are your roads? They're 20. So we'll just clarify that and get you an updated site plan dated. I think there's a different date on that also that shows the 20-foot roads. So really, I really don't have a whole lot more to add than that. We'd be glad to answer any questions and go from there.
Sure, thank you so much. Any questions of any of the commissioners? Okay, this can be quick.
It said that there'd be 5% of the trees removed, and there's no way for us to monitor that now. So I do have a concern about the starting of all the earth movement and construction, et cetera, prior to permits, et cetera, being in place.
Well, and to date, and the existing plans that we've got in the case, have we, just looking for some kind of consistency, have we had them do like an inventory of any sorts in the past?
A tree inventory? From what I could tell, the previous approvals for the special land use permit on those sites did not have a full tree inventory. It was more similar to this level of detail.
Got it.
So, and just for background, I'd say probably over a year ago or so, Leslie got in touch with Timber Ridge and had heard from, I don't know, neighbors that there had been some additional campsites under construction. So we met with Timber Ridge. They, stated that they were, had halted all construction and were not using any of those campsites that they had started. So that was kind of the approach that the township has been taken, was just no more action until a site plan is reviewed and approved.
Well, I guess my question is then, can someone from the township go out and check the site and make sure that, because it says, page 92 says, satisfied, the proposed development area heavily wooded, applicant seeks to remove fewer than 5%. Well, how can that be satisfied when we don't really know? So I guess I'm concerned that we don't have continuation of that. I understand, I live in a forested area. I do understand the oak wilt, and we're fighting a few of those issues, but, and having worked with Brown Bridge for so many years and been out there, we do have oak wilt, I get it, we have windstorms, but not to the extent of what I believe was cleared. I'll be honest with you. I'm concerned about that. And then we have sewer, water, and electric already run.
I'm sorry, what was?
I mean, sewer,
Oh.
water, electric lines are already run. So we're just pending, I think that there has to be some kind of condition to monitor the remainder of the construction, which the applicant indicated as patios, graveling, leveling, and concrete pads have not been done yet. So I think there needs to be a condition to kind of monitor that, since we're kind of behind the 8 ball right now.
I don't think that's unreasonable at all either. I mean, you've already got everything there for the most part. And honestly, as a part of their land use permit, that's, part of the process, right? You'd go out and have a look at it anyhow, just to kind of confirm what's on the ground matches what's on the site plan. I mean, is there anything in it, like additional that you want to deal into that approval, or?
Just the monitoring of, I think the continuation, if there's any other continuation of clearing of wooded area, and the monitoring of what the applicant stated as needs to be completed at that time.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. So the applicant is stating that they will not remove more than 5% of trees. We don't have any standard in our ordinance on the number of trees that can be removed, so that's one challenge in terms of enforcing the ordinance, is that there's no set standard on what can be removed and what needs to be conserved.
And I
But we
think,
can absolutely have our zoning administrator out there now and kind of get a feel for the layout of the site
Sure.
and monitor as the,
Go ahead.
What do you think, Mindy?
is the definition on a site the back 40, or is it just that for which is being developed, the 38, 39 sites?
my interpretation is just the 39 sites. That's the piece of the site plan that I was reviewing. Because it's an amendment to an existing special land use permit and 80-acre campground.
So, because I wasn't here back when, explain that just a little bit more, like, okay, so they were approved for up to 360, but yet only 300. Explain that a little bit more again?
My understand, and I wasn't here either, but my
Okay.
understanding in reading the minutes was that they came with a detailed site plan of 322 spaces. They also wanted to add an additional, I think, 39 to
Okay.
get them up to that 360.
Okay.
But didn't have the detailed plans.
Oh,
of What's
okay.
presented now of kind of what the road layout would look like.
Gotcha.
What the campsite layout. So there wasn't enough information in front of the planning commission at that time to approve all 360.
Gotcha.
And so the planning commission said, we're approving a site plan of 322, but we're comfortable with you going up to 360. Just come back with a complete site plan.
Okay.
To show that. Is that characterize it?
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. Okay.
And the site plan for the 300, whatever was approved at that time, was similar to the design that is currently in front of us.
No, because it was over here.
I meant more from a standpoint of the number of lots and the amount of space between them and the roads and things like that. It was.
Oh, yeah.
It's similar to what's there, okay.
It might have been more back in spots than as many pull-throughs that they're talking about with this, which of course takes more area because, and you have more roads when you have the pull-throughs, but, yeah. It was the last one was from over here.
One thing that comes to mind just from a question is just the trends that I've seen around the area and the successfulness, honestly, of the park. I'm just curious in terms of like, from a phased approach, do you anticipate any additional growth outside of what's existing there, either through single-family homes, like additions to the folks that are purchasing lots, or additional future expansion of the park itself?
Yeah, I mean, we do,
You need to come to the microphone, please.
we do plan to continue expansion as business, but right now it is a booming business. Before I bought the park, they did a a select cut through there. So they took all the standing softwood out of the back 40 acres. So we went through and stumped ground and stuff like that, and that's where a lot of our trails came from back there, because the company was staging all the logs up on the southeast corner of the front 40. So they had drag lines to drag all these logs out and through, so it was a natural barrier. So what was left was bigger hardwoods and then larger pines. We have a lot of, you look to the woods and you'll see a lot of sticks, but we have a lot of like single white oaks and things that are, the stalks are standing, but the trees are dead. Or it's a pine and there's literally, 5 at the top. But nobody wants to come to a campground unless you're in Arizona and park in a parking lot. And that's one of the reasons our place is unique, it's in the woods. So back when I had 360, but only had 322, when I do an area, I'm a little anal about it, and I go through and it's like all of a sudden, yeah, we could fit. I mean, it's like 7.5 sites per acre is a design sort of rule of thumb standard for RV parks. We're like at 6. And it's just because, there's a big shade tree there, and that's what the customer wants. So we move along and move over, and that's why I didn't have those other 38 drawn in at the time when I came back in 15, was still laying out. We had a topography out there, and I just couldn't see the layout of it yet. We ended up with some oak wilt we took out and stuff on the north end. There was a lot of other trees, but they were little, 2-inch, 3-inch stuff. Believe me, I keep every large shade tree we can, other than if it's the road, and occasionally it's there. I don't like it. We got curvy roads because we're moving around shade trees where we can. We've got ours under control. We lose maybe 6 to 10 red oaks a year from oak wilt, but it's controlled. It's the beetle that's giving us the fits.
Sure.
So the roads that'll come will only be the access roads that we need to do, RV sites or whatever.
Okay.
There's a lot of sapling, popples, aspen that's coming up from regrowth when they took it all out, but it's small stuff. Back in our trailer storage area, we store trailers all over in there. They're all under a canopy of trees and they're leafing out, which is snuffing out some of the smaller stuff. So we take some small stuff out. It's not going to live.
Right.
We're trying to keep it as long as it takes us to do leaves, and we're very efficient at leaves, and it takes us 6 weeks to do leaves. We have a lot of trees.
So in the next 5 years, do you anticipate an additional kind of area or expansion through RV park then?
Yes, other than less density, just because we have our swimming lake out there. We want to keep a green buffer around that. We have an area here we sort of call it Central Park, and that's where we're going to put a bike terrain park in there and keep it woodsy. So it's just with the nature of it. So I see more sites, but you'll see them probably larger sites and just less density than what you see in the front half of the park.
Gotcha. And I was only asking that because we are out there regularly. We have friends and family there regularly. It's a great operation. You guys fit a definite niche successfully. And I'm just thinking for future, coming before this board, if you really are looking to do an expansion in the future, it would be nice to kind of delineate, just so everybody else that's not so in tune with the park, like your parking lot area and probably even some of your planned trail development, because I know you're huge users of all the Vasa folks and from a Fat Tire Bike community as well. And, from our standpoint, I think it fits really well, but maybe that would be an opportunity to kind of, I wouldn't want to have to see an inventory over a spot that large, especially with the types of trees that are out there. But, maybe just doing a general representation of clumping, I'm just thinking out loud, but clumping that designates one tree for every X number of square feet type of a delineation. So then we have kind of like a blanket stamp, if you will, moving forward. I'm not saying that today, but in the future, that way, so that if we're not here and there's another question, at least there's some rationale as to how we got there without you going out and spending 15 grand on a tree survey to mark every one of a certain caliber, right? So just food for thought, I guess, is where I'm going.
I'm a tree hugger,
I
so
don't think
believe it or not.
anybody is, I'm not saying a tree inventory, but it would have been nice to maybe have us look at the site before the trees were down to kind of say, would it be, like we do with the white pines, when we go out to a site, we say, can you save that heritage tree, And I think I was caught a little bit off guard because I was reading what I had in this packet, and then when I saw it, it didn't mesh. But you have a total of 80 acres? Okay, I just want to make sure I was correct
Yep.
on my
Yep.
notes.
And
then-
I'm thinking it's like roughly 53, 51, or sort of like, I'll say developed.
Okay,
So,
and you were saying something about, let me get this, just to clarify. So if you have 80 acres and 360 sites, what were you saying that, the delineation is, 7.6 per?
7.5 sites per acre.
Is that what your?
That's when factoring in, that's a RV
Industry
part,
stream.
sort of
Oh, it
a
is.
design
Okay.
thing, like when developers, look at money, they're looking how many sites I put in, so they can sort of model it from a cash flow standpoint. That's counting roads, service buildings based on, so many sites and stuff.
So are you at the 7.5?
Oh, no, we're like at 6.
You're at 6, so
Yeah.
you were thinking about future phasing in.
That will
maybe-
be what I've just looked at based on areas I personally want to keep the way it is. We'd probably be like at a 5 on the continuing part. It's just,
And you guys have a communal waste system on site?
yeah,
Is that
there's
accurate?
actually 5 systems, and this one will be the 6th.
Got it.
So when we got our wastewater discharge permit last year, which is when they first started pushing parts to that, and we were actually agreed to do it, even though our flows were under what's required. We agreed to do it because they wanted to collect data and stuff, and I sort of wanted to learn it. So we were already approved for the 6th system, which would service these sites. And actually, it's designed for 60 sites, even though there's only 39 out there right now.
Gotcha.
But that's all we did, because that got us up to the 360. So we have 6 individual systems. So
Got it.
when you see a ball field or a dog park, it's a drain field.
Understood.
Because other than that, it's trees.
Yep, understood. I'm just being nosy now, yeah.
So the 38, 39 site thing going on, is that because there was one less site over in the other development that allowed?
Yeah, we
for the
eliminated,
39?
actually, we eliminated 2 more this spring, just relaying out and redoing some existing sites in the front 40 acres.
Okay. So we're probably really at
We'll probably be at 359.
350,
Yep.
okay. All right.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate the information. Any other comments, questions internally? Happy to entertain.
I'll move to approve the site plan 722 Timber Ridge with the conditions per the staff and the addition of a requirement that if take it back.
So just to be, conditions of staff?
Well, with the staff requirements, and then the issue about checking on the trees, but that's fine.
The additional monitoring.
Yeah, and the
Initial
monitoring of the remainder of the construction.
Okay, so do we want to I just want to clarify for staff here. So can you give me a handle on what your angle is? Maybe subject to approval of a final land use permit?
But that's always what these conditions are, subject to final land use permit. We can, I think that what Judy was asking, my understanding was that we'll have Preston go out from an enforcement standpoint and just take a look at, I've been out to the site, I don't think he's been out to the site, so he can take a look at the tree inventory, and just if there's any concerns, questions, once the campsite is complete, just, we'll have a better kind of inventory of what trees are currently there within that 39 sites. Is that what you're looking for, Judy?
Yeah, just to get an idea of what is currently there, that we're not going to devastate more with the addition of the further construction of patios, gravel, and concrete pads. Are the roads 20 feet right now?
Yes.
Okay, so he said okay, okay. All right, so there wouldn't be any more additional probably taken down due to the roads meeting the fire department. But there is more construction to be had out there, so my question is, let's try to keep it the way it is. Go ahead.
Do you want it on this approval, or do you want me to put it on the land use permit?
Claire, what would you prefer?
We can put it in this as a
Okay,
condition.
all right.
It can go on the land
Thank
use
you, thank you for asking.
So just to clarify, Judy, so when we make that as a condition, and he ends up next year having 12 more trees with oak wilt, does he have to come back to us to get those removed?
I think this would be an administrative kind of
Okay.
staff.
All right.
Working with the
Right,
applicant.
right, because we know that's a real issue. I mean, so, okay, all right, thank you.
I accept the friendly amendments.
There we go. That's where I was going. Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on the motions? Yes, Mindy?
Can we add the findings of fact in there too?
Subject to the proposed, oh, shoot, my
But
computer
I-
just turned off.
Subject to the staff
If I say
findings of fact.
staff,
Report? Okay. I never heard the term findings of fact. I thought you were just talking about the 3 staff.
No, I was talking about
Conditions.
the place.
Any other
Nobody yet.
additions?
Can anybody support this?
We're still getting the motion
We're
figured
still
out.
getting the
Not
motion,
yet, we're still
yeah.
getting the motions.
We're not there yet, Leslie.
All right, sure, how's that?
Are we there now? I'll support.
Are we there?
Just checking.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table with some friendly amendments. Support by Edley. Let's just do, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Appreciate you. Okay. Last new item is site plan review 6-22, SLU 4-22, GT Land Company, introduction and discussion. With that, I think I'll kick it over to Claire to kind of get us going.
Okay, so this is in the Meadowlands Industrial Park. It's 2 different units. And the applicant is seeking special land use permit and site plan approval to operate a combination of uses. So right now, combination of uses are not permitted in industrial. Likely that will be approved, or it's going before the township board for approval at the meeting next Monday. So, so they're seeking a combination of uses, which would include a vehicle repair facility, which is requires a special land use permit, as well as the sign shop and the offices / storage for beer and wine tour business. So my understanding is right now, the beer and wine tour business is operating out of there and has their offices there, as well as the sign shop. The vehicle repair facility would be for the tour buses, but that would be a new use in that industrial park. Our ordinance requires special land use permit for that, so that's why this is becoming before the planning commission. Normally, industrial uses in the park are just administrative review and approval. And our ordinance requires that there's only 1 vehicle repair shop per industrial park, I think, and/or not more than 10% of the total area in that park. So basically, if this is approved for a vehicle repair facility, then there wouldn't be allowed to be any other units at the Meadowlands Industrial Park to be a vehicle repair facility.
But you're saying it's just for is it open to anybody, or it's just for
I
the?
believe it's just for their vehicles and we have the applicant here to clarify that.
Okay, okay,
That's my
gotcha.
understanding.
Okay.
I can also, Dan, do you want me, there's a number of outstanding issues, so I'm not recommending approval tonight, but it's an introduction. We've got the applicant here to kind of go over.
Yeah.
So I can go over the outstanding items after they present their plans.
Sure. Sounds good. Is there anyone from the applicant can come up, talk about the project at hand?
I'm super tall for everybody else, so.
And again, please introduce yourself and where you're from.
Hi, my name's Bridget Saxton. I'm from Coon Rogers, and I'm an attorney there. I'm accompanied by Miss Sarah Keever and also Mr. Dave Glenn back there. Normally, I'd be with Mr. McKellar, but he is out of town, so you're stuck with me tonight. I hope that I can make this go as efficient as possible. Thank you, Claire. I think you set me up for success on that one. We are here for a special land use request and a site plan review. Unit 3 would be designated only for the vehicle repair facility. And you're right, it would be, from my understanding, what I've been told, it's specifically for the TC Wine and Beer Tours. The predecessors of this unit used to be overhead doors, and so one side was just for the garage doors and the other side was for the professional offices. So that's what our second special land use request is for that. So that's existing. The only thing that's different is that it's a combined use. So we'll also have a sign repair shop, which will help with, I don't know if you've seen some of the TC Wine and Beer Tours, but some of them are very colorful and tie-dyed, and so that kind of helps. So that's something that would be all in one shop. So that's the only difference, is that we're asking for the combined use. There were a couple things that I wanted to clarify based on the memo, because there was a couple things that we didn't satisfy. So I'm going to try to correct those wrongs. One is that we need to discuss the landscaping plan. I know we don't have an official plan, but I know at least off the top of my head, we're going to be adding 2 evergreens on the north side of the property, or not the north side, the south side, so the entrance. There's 4 on one side, and then we're going to be adding at least 2 more. But I'll let Sarah get more into the nitty-gritty of the actual landscaping plan. And I know that we've seen previous ones that I think we're going to try to implement. In terms of the vehicle repair shop, in our application, we had discussed that there might be some equipment outside, but those were just some poor hypotheticals, that everything will be inside Unit 3. There's not going to be anything outside. So I just want to make that crystal clear. And we wanted to confirm that the vehicle repair shop will be in Unit 3, will be in compliance with the current zoning ordinance requirements. In terms of lighting, we also will be adding 2 lights to the parking lot, and those will have the horizontal lighting with special shielding, and we won't have any light bulbs that are sticking out, so we'll reduce the light pollution and be in compliance with the dark ordinance. And it seems that the exterior building lighting was in compliance in the current signage. The stormwater, I know, is an issue that is pending. And another thing that was a big question was the open space calculations. And I believe that we are in compliance. I know it had to be at least 30% vegetation, and I believe that we're at 39. But again, I will defer to Sarah on that. And in terms of screening, I do want to add that we have a fence on the north side of the property that's 6 feet tall, or that will be there. And I believe that that's also in compliance with the zoning ordinance, because I know it had to be against the abutting residential zone. So I'll defer to Sarah, and if you have other questions, I'll happily chime in.
Thank you.
Sarah Keever, Northview 22. And I will guide you through the site plan, which is very simple for once. So, and I hope to not have to take much of your time as I have in the past. I apologize. If you have the site plan in front of you, just to note, 2 units are being reviewed tonight. More particularly, it's the combined use that is before you and will be the decision. Unit 3 is existing. Everything that you see on there is as it was approved back in, I believe it was 2006. I could be off a year or 2. But it stands very close to what was approved and designed at that time. So anything on Unit 3 is existing. there is one note on there to remove a fence. There's a concrete area towards the, let's see, the northwest corner. There's concrete with a fence around there, and we are going to remove that fence and replace that with parking instead. But just to simplify it, everything on 3 is existing. Have been noticed, there were some deficiencies in some of the landscaping that Claire and I reviewed from the old plan, and so we will be needing to making some upgrades to that as far as the landscaping on Unit 3. But everything else is consistent and stays as such. And again, Claire verified for us that the lighting and signage is in compliance. Again, it's the existing signage and the existing lighting. No additional signage is proposed, and the only additional proposed lighting is just as what's required for the new parking lot. So in that case, jumping over to Unit 4, this Unit 4 is simply going to be a new parking lot. It's going to be, I believe it's 21 additional spaces to support their TC Wine and Beer Tour fleet vehicles. And this is showing how long I've been in this business, but I did pull out the original Meadowland Industrial Park plans that I worked on at another firm 100 years ago. And this was actually the game plan that they had for this entire development, was a unit with a common access drive down the property line, and then parking that would utilize that access drive on either side. So as I'm showing it is really what was the original intent of the design many, many years ago. So with, again, Unit 4 is as shown, it's additional 21 parking spaces, and then we are going to relocate the dumpster pad over at the end of that parking lot in order to provide more efficient flow for both businesses on that site. As Claire had mentioned, Bridget had mentioned, we are waiting for a stormwater and soil erosion plan to be completed. It should be completed at the end of this week and into Claire to be able to hand over to Township Engineering for review, probably early next week. We will be required to, as far as permits, we'll be required to get a soil erosion permit. We're within 500 feet of a regulated and designated wetland, so we're aware of that, and that will be applied for. We did present it to Metro Fire, and they copied Claire on a letter that said they did not need to perform a review on the parking lot. And Road Commission nor Health Department is applicable for this development. We did calculate the open space in order to just make sure that we did meet the ordinance. We have existing Unit 3 is 39% open space vegetated. Unit 4, as proposed, 76% open space vegetated. Combined between 3 and 4 is 64%. And with that, I believe that covers the site plan additions for this, and I know we'd be happy to answer any questions you guys may have. Yes, we do have, it's hard to see on your plan, but there is the difference when you're adjacent to residential use, there is a 6-foot-high fence that is showing up on the very north property line of this parcel for about 150 feet or so to screen from the residential zoned parcel to the north that will screen the parking lot. And then we're going to propose the addition of 2 street trees along the Industrial Circle Drive as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, Mindy.
Sarah? Is there a gap in the fence
Which, the proposed one or the existing one?
between the two?
There is a gap in the fence because the one existing fence is on the neighbor's property.
Ooh.
Is that because I noticed it was pretty broken.
It was pretty broken. I noticed that as well.
So that,
Yeah.
So do we need to put a fence up here?
yeah, I would want to see a fence that was in good condition the entire length of the property, because even though there's not residential land use, further down, it's all zoned residential. And so our ordinance does require that fence to continue along the property line.
I think that would be doable.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Just one. Since there's going to be like a motor repair area primarily on Unit 3?
Correct.
That's right. What are they going to be doing with the waste oil and things of that nature? Any of the fluids?
Yeah, I believe that you had asked a question about the hazardous waste and being less than the 25 gallons, is that right? And I did confirm that with Mark and with our client, and I know that that will not be exceeded with that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your answer.
Oh, no, I was going to say
You were
that.
talking in that way.
That's right. No, we will not, it's going to be under the 25 gallon, and we won't exceed that hazardous amount in the ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
And just to clarify again, the vehicles that'll be repaired on site will be those of the business. It won't be open to the general public to come in and utilize as a repair facility?
That's my understanding, but I will clarify that, just to make sure we're all on the same page. I know that it's permitted, one permitted per industrial park, so I think that we'd be in compliance, but I'll make sure everyone knows, so I'm crystal clear.
Yeah, just to clarify, and I think that was mentioned by Sarah, we'll have a public hearing for this at the next month meeting. There'll be a site plan, so the planning commission, or the site visit, so the planning commission can go and see the site, and we will address any of those questions.
So my questions are, the parking lots and the basin stormwaters, those are pretty close for runoff, and we all know vehicles leak. And people coming for those tours, we don't know, I have a concern about all that impervious surface running off of oil and brake fluid and all that kind of good stuff from repairs going into those basins.
So that's one of that is the purpose of a stormwater basin, is to collect that so that it does not mitigate or create flow of that. And so you got to remember the new parking lot, those are not going to be the vehicles that are there for repair. Mostly the repair vehicles will be held on Unit 3, as they have been and have been utilized. They will also be brought into the bays. They do have, I believe the site also has a grit chamber for anything that would be an issue on that. But that is one of the purposes, that's what a stormwater basin does, is to prevent the contamination of soils that would spread into the system.
And do we know what the wetland situation is there, and also then the soils and the leaching of that? Those are all concerns, because the solution to pollution is dilution, and that's what you're telling me, so I'm concerned about that.
So again, this was originally designed as an industrial park.
I understand that, but that doesn't mean that we can pollute.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You were asking Judy about the wetlands, so that wetland delineation was done in 1999.
Yeah.
And so you'll see, and I don't understand exactly how that was delineated, how it's completely outside the industrial park, but there, I assume that there was permits received, and so that delineation. I did reach out, the Watershed Center, Heather Smith got in touch with us, and she had reviewed it and had some questions, and I think she was thinking that the proposal was for the whole building and the Unit 3, and then when she found out that it was just the additional parking, she had no concerns about the proposal.
I didn't know that you reached out with Heather yet, so, yeah, I just am saying that there's a lot of impervious surface close to those well, they're not bioswales, but they're stormwater retention, so, it's just, something. And then the other thing that they stated in their application was that the people waiting for the tours could be noisy, and there's residential there. So I have a concern if there'd be an indoor waiting area or something, because we all know, having spent a lot of time around university students, the louder they get is the more alcohol they have. So we all know that beer and wine tours, volume goes up. So I have concern about people milling there for the residential, and if there's some way we can deal with that.
Yeah, can I address the wetland and the
Sure.
pollution concerns first? I think it's important to remember as well that those issues are really under the purview of Eagle, and we're following all the standards and ordinances and permits applicable to what they require. And, that's really what you can do in order to prevent this from happening, is you follow the advice and consent of Eagle and their permitting process and the ordinances, NERIPA, and everything else that deals with the wetlands and impervious surfaces. And as long as we follow those, which we have an obligation to do, regardless of what happens here, going forward, we always have an obligation not to pollute. So that's just something that really needs to be kept in mind as we go forward. Yes?
You didn't introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry, Dave Glenn. Yeah, Bridget introduced me, I think, but yeah, Dave Glenn and Coon Rogers. I'm filling in for Mark. He's doing more important things like fly fishing in South America.
So
That's all I wanted to add. We just have obligations under state and federal laws as well that probably alleviate a lot of your fears.
So maybe just to kind of also quantify in ways that we've tried to address that noise discussion over time was just to maybe outline just your general operations, and maybe that can be something that's just incorporated into the packet, so that if anybody asks, you've got hours of operation and duration of time, people generally wait before they get on the bus, things like that.
No, I think that's a great question.
And where they're going to wait.
Well, funny that you asked. Before I even moved here, and before I was even an attorney, I too am a transplant to say, because I'm not from here. And I actually randomly went on this tour. And you don't actually go to the industrial park, they pick you up. So everything is scheduled. They have private tours. Normally they go and pick you up at hotels, that's where I was. And I just arranged this for another family matter, which is kind of funny. And the first thing they ask you is, where am I picking you up? No one actually goes to the industrial park to be picked up.
Oh, that's good.
So, I'm sorry, I can't put my finger on it right now, but it did say something about noise being, people may be milling outside there, so what was
Is that in the Wade Trim one?
Yeah, maybe it was.
Wade Trim has not reviewed this yet because
Oh.
the drainage plan and stormwater hasn't been submitted.
I think I remember seeing it too. I'm trying to remember. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Definitely saw, I know what you're saying, Judy.
I know that's in there.
Yeah.
We're going to try to.
It's in this email.
Oh, it's in the email.
The only question I have is tied to the site itself, meaning, putting in a dozen or 20 parking spots is, if I paid that much for the land, I just wonder if you would want to do something in the future with that site other than just parking. Is there any conversation about that?
You have a comment on that? Okay. I was gonna say.
sorry, she was just asking that you go up to it.
Oh, sure. No, but I didn't know if you had a comment on, of future use with the parking lot.
Meaning, do you think there'd be any additional intensity of uses besides just the addition of the parking on one side of the?
Not at this time.
Okay.
I did clarify that with the owner applicant, the owner, and because we were trying to decide if we should build a bigger stormwater basin and for future uses, and it was shot down quickly that no, at this time, it's just the parking lot as shown, no other plans or any future plans.
Okay, thank you.
Regarding the vehicle thing, are they diesel?
That's a good question. I'll have to ask.
Are you thinking about going EV?
Hey, there you go.
They probably are. I think they're mostly Sprinter vans, aren't they?
A lot, I was going to say, the fleet is online, the fleet's online, and I've looked at it where most of them are like Sprinter vans. I know that there's a party bus where that one's bigger. They have a Land Rover Defender, if you want to get a little fancy. And then they have a couple other limos, but most of them are just vans, like Mr. Glenn was saying. I do have a question, though. And maybe I shouldn't be prying, but in terms of the screening, was there supposed to be any additional on the outside, not on that north part where there's the fencing?
I gotta tell you, I would just punt and defer to staff, and maybe you can kind of have that conversation internally before we come back to the next meeting, and we'll rely on them for their expertise.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, the applicant?
No, I have a question for,
Oh.
don't they do vehicle maintenance at the fire barn?
It's a good question. It's not a designated vehicle repair facility, but,
I think you already got one in there.
okay, we'll take a look at that.
Well, luckily for us, we don't have to take any official action on this evening. We'll let staff kind of figure this out in conjunction with the applicant. And I hope that you got some feedback anyway, so you're teed up for the next meeting, because it sounds like we've got a public hearing scheduled for the next month. So that being said, I think we can move into item number 10, which is public comment. There's a couple of you we haven't heard from yet. Is there anything additional anyone would like to comment on?
I lost my agenda.
Good evening. Sally Somsel, 1717 US 31. Supervisor Friend started off saying thank you to all of you. I'm going to do that in the second public comment here of saying thank you to each of you committee members for serving your community as a public servant. A commissioner's position is serious and can be a lot of work, which I've been in your audience and I've noticed, and a number of other people as well. So a commissioner's position is serious and can be a lot of work while you are serving your community and the taxpayers of East Bay. Many of us do realize that your time is important as you review lengthy meeting packets. They weren't that thick tonight, were they? Reports, site plans, addendums, correspondence, doing research, attending meetings of many hours in duration, this is a short one, and making site visits. Thank you for your service. And thank you also to the zoning and planning staff. Leslie and Claire are here this evening. Preston fits in that category as well. So you are helping this commission being informed, as well as the ZBA and the Township Board. So thank you for your service as well. One more item here in closing. I wish to thank the board for considering a moratorium in regards to the issues developing with the short-term rentals in the township. In many cases, they are creating negative impacts and causing issues within residential neighborhoods and subjecting the surrounding homeowners with noise, parking problems, trash issues, and other concerns. If property damage occurs at the short-term rental, some owners are not performing upkeep on the homes. People are parking in front yards adjacent to US 31. I could have stuck my hand out a window and hit a car. So things are happening out there that do need to be looked at. So it's coming back into your laps here, it sounds like. So thank you for the privilege of your time, and thank you for serving your community. The future of East Bay is in your hands. So I appreciate all that you have been giving here. I think it's probably been about a year since I've watched or been in your audience, and I'm impressed with all of the time that you are giving towards us, the citizens here in East Bay Township. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, thank you. All right, any other updates from planning commissioners?
Other than, I think, because in your absence on the 17th, I want to get with Claire and talk to her about some things for the master plan, the way we want to approach that to be expeditious, so that we can get it to you, so you can be prepared before the meeting.
Yeah,
Does that sound
I
good?
apologize. We should have added an agenda item because our chair resigned, our vice chair is going to be gone. So we're working to fill the position, the seventh member on the planning commission, and we have a few potential people that are interested, but in terms of, we will need to appoint a chair, and we'll put that on the agenda for an upcoming meeting, and we will also need to have someone sit in and serve as chair for the special meeting on the 17th. And we can appoint someone at that meeting.
I can do it if you need me to.
Go ahead. Yeah, I didn't know if it went in succession.
Should have put it
Huh?
agenda tonight. Sorry.
I mean, I wasn't sure because
We made,
normally we do it.
we made Judy do everything at the site plan review.
Sure how this succession went.
Yeah, that was an oversight. I should have put that on the agenda tonight.
So you'll work with Mindy to tell us how to be prepared. Thank you, Mindy.
Yeah.
What?
Leslie.
Leslie said I couldn't do it, so
Oh, she can't? Okay, then I'll work with you.
I have in the past.
I don't think there's anything against a board member being the vice chair and serving as a chair. I think that there's.
I just can't be the
I
chair.
think she can't be the chair, so I think
Okay.
it would be appropriate for her to serve as, fill in as chair or serve as. That's my understanding.
Feels like a motion.
I would so move that Mindy.
I was vice chair,
Yeah.
but the chair had resigned.
Oh, because you were, okay.
I'll move that Mindy chair the meeting as vice chair for, or as vice chair. Two vices in there?
Can we do that at this meeting without it being on the agenda?
No.
No, we didn't do it. Okay.
You can do it at the next meeting.
Yeah, there you go.
Before the meeting
There you
starts?
go.
But
Yeah, I would
Leslie, write
swear-
all that down so we can remember
I
it.
think you do.
I just
What?
swear her in.
I think when we would select you as chair, we'd be doing it at that meeting prior to the meeting.
But it would be nice to know ahead of time so you can
Yeah.
prepare.
Well, suit up.
I will.
Suit up and come prepared.
Thanks, Mindy.
Okay. Yeah. The next upcoming meeting, May 17th, special meeting, and then our next regular meeting is on June 7th. All that being said, we can close this thing down at 7:52. No need for a break. We are adjourned.